The text of the press conference is titled Reopening of Universities, COVID-19 or ASUU Struggles. This is being a text of a press conference by the zonal coordinator of ASUU Bauchi zone on the key parameters that may play as stakeholders agitate for the reopening of universities in Nigeria, particularly public universities, held at the ASUU Secretariat, University of Jos, UniJos, on Tuesday, the 1st of September 2020. Fellow comrades, gentlemen of the press, the preamble is as follows. The attention of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU Bauchi Zone, has been drawn to agitations on the reopening of universities by stakeholders amid prevailing and unresolved COVID-19 and ASUU strike issues. Some of the stakeholders have even blamed ASUU for the inability of the federal government to announce reopening. We have also seen a number of conflicting headlines on the subject matter, such as COVID-19, tertiary institution students declare protests against closure of schools. We saw this from Premium Times Online of Sunday, 29th August. Saturday, 29 August 2020. Federal government data will determine reopening of tertiary institutions. That's this day, live online, of Friday, 14th August 2020. COVID-19, universities will reopen soon. Federal government says. That's Pulse Online of 23rd August. COVID-19, how we are preparing to reopen universities, that's NUC, in the Vanguard Online of 7th August 2020. And Afe Babalola blames us for non-reopening of Varsities, that was in the Guardian of 7th August 2020, etc. Is it COVID-19, ASUU strike, or the antics of government, or people in government, at its highest play? This text reminds us of the pending issues between federal government and ASUU, including the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPPIS, and COVID-19 pandemic, as they affect the reopening of Nigerian universities. 2, pending issues between federal government and ASUU and IPPIS. Please recall that ASUU had declared a warning strike after a National Executive Council meeting, NEG, at Enugu State University of Technology, ASUU, on Monday, the 9th of March, 2020, which metamorphosed to a total, comprehensive, and indefinite strike action after an emergency NEC meeting at University of Abuja on the 23rd of March 2020. We want Nigerians to know that ASUU took this decision as the last option and in the best interest of the university system and the nation, with a view to persuading government to implement the February 7th, 2019 FGN ASUU Memorandum of Action, and by extension, the 2017 Memorandum of Action, the 2013 Memorandum of Understanding, the 2011 Memorandum of Understanding, and the 2009 FGN ASUU Agreement, aimed at saving the Nigerian public university system and the abandonment of the forceful implementation of IPPIS, which is full of anomalies and inconsistent with extant university laws. Pending issues, specifically the component of the 2019 MOA that are pending are 5. They include A, provision of sustainable funding and funding for revitalization of public universities by the FGN. You may recall that the details for funding requirements for revitalization of the Nigerian universities as contained in the 2013 MOU are 1. Federal government shall provide funds for the revitalization of public universities in the following manner in the next 6 years, beginning with 2013. So that narrative shows the 6 years with a total release of 1.3 trillion naira. Number 2, that a dedicated revitalization account shall be opened at the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, by federal government. Funds shall be paid into it on a quarterly basis, for which the universities would draw. Federal government shall ensure that these funds are ring-fenced. Number 3, that a central monitoring committee, that is the Implementation Monitoring Committee, IMC, of NIS assessment, shall be established to monitor the implementation of the revitalization of public universities and shall submit quarterly report to the Minister of Education. In the MOA of February 7, 2019, the government affirmed its commitment to the implementation of the 2013 MOU, which would be shown by the release of 25 billion naira in the period April/May 2019, and subsequent resumption of full implementation of the MOU after the activation of the recommendations of the report of the stakeholders workshop on sustainable funding for education in Nigeria, which was held between 27th and 28th of November 2018. But has the government lived up to the above commitments? The other pending issues are B, payment of arrears of non-academic allowances, EAA, up to 2018 in 4 equal installments, and the mainstreaming of further payments into the annual budget beginning from 2019. C, state universities, where a consultative committee is to address the issues of proliferation, underfunding, and unnecessary interference in governance by state governments. Number D, reconstitution of visitation panels to all federal universities, which was fixed for 11th of March 2019. E, reconstitution of government negotiation team and the commencement and conclusion of such renegotiation within 6 weeks, that is from 18th of February 2019 to 31st of March 2019. So these are the 5 pending issues. We'll come back to it later. 2.2, forceful implementation of IPPIS in universities. ASUU had resisted and will continue to resist IPPIS in the Nigerian public universities, citing a number of reasons. Apart from being inconsistent with the university laws, IPPIS has a number of deployment and implementation challenges in the Nigerian universities. It is a foreign-oriented policy with clandestine objectives. But we have good objectives which are being achieved by the existing internal mechanisms in our universities, with the University Governing Councils in control and the National Universities Commission, NUC, harmonizing university standards in line with international standard and global best practices. Apart from the use of IPPIS, we have enumerated in previous engagement with the press new trends in the desperate attempts of the Accountant General of the Federation, AGF, to implement IPPIS in the universities has exposed his excesses and how he has taken law into his hands. Clearly two examples are A, the deduction of the National Housing Fund contributions when our members do not have any accounts with the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, FMBN. The program is even optional now as considerations on the need for housing by our members, and bank loan interests are also factored. Initially, this law was compulsory, but later federal government saw the need to revisit that, and it is now optional. But the Accountant General of the Federation has gone ahead to make deductions. These deductions are now hanging somewhere because we don't have accounts, or are being used by the Accountant General of the Federation. We hope the accrued interest will be handed over to us in due course. B, the AGF has deducted check-off dues from our members' salaries in excess of our constitutional provisions and has failed to remit same to our union, that is ASUU, in violation of the extant labor laws. We hope the AGF is not dragging himself to jail anyway. We will not be surprised anyway. We have recently seen enemies of ASUU digging their own graves at the University of Lagos. The AGF must prepare to remit our deducted check-off dues to ASUU with interest. We would want to advise the Accountant General of the Federation that if we go by one of his reasons, implementation of IPPIS is aimed at curbing corruption. So we want to advise the AGF to assist Nigeria and Nigerians in curbing mega corruptions we have earlier pointed out in the many MDS that have recently been exposed in this bad light. We have seen Niger Delta Commission, NDDC, what is happening. We have seen even EFCC. We have seen P&ID earlier, and we have seen even accusations pointing at the Minister, Attorney General and Minister of Justice of this country. All these are mega corruptions. So he shouldn't be so disturbed with mini corruptions if there are any associated with university lecturers' salaries. We have mechanisms to check any form of corruption in Nigerian universities, as is being done now in UNILAG. Because in UNILAG, the council has said there are some corrupt issues and illegally dethroned or removed the Vice Chancellor. But the federal government has now moved using the extant provisions in the university laws, the internal mechanism to check this. That's the visitation panel. Number 3, COVID-19 pandemic. ASUU reiterates that coronavirus, that's COVID-19, is real. We have seen how prominent Nigerians that had hitherto treated headache in Germany, UK, US, and Canada falling victims to this pandemic. We must be reminded of how successive governments in Nigeria have treated Nigerian universities. They have never connected education and health, which are the two clear indices of human development. When people say health is wealth, our president, as the ASUU president, had always insisted that good health is a product of good education. It is investment in high quality education, particularly at tertiary level, that produces competent and efficient medical and paramedical workers, who in turn drive the health system to its highest level possible. Indeed, the tertiary education level is the best mirror of this symbiotic relationship. The inability of Nigerian hospitals to respond meaningfully to the early waves of COVID-19 is no longer news. We can contrast the nakedness and emptiness of our facilities with the experience in China, which was able to respond decisively to the COVID-19 challenges. We do not need to draw a diagram to prove that the Chinese vast pool of researchers, scientists, doctors, nurses, laboratory technologists, and other medical and paramedical personnel were mostly drawn from their universities and allied institutes. It is unfortunate to note that Nigerian universities were accorded little or no role in the efforts to respond to COVID-19 because of past neglect for which ASUU has always engaged government. I think we can be able to see that is this PTF committee that is in charge of monitoring and controlling COVID-19. I don't think there is any researcher in that committee. I don't think there is anybody from the university which is a researcher in the subject matter in that committee. Going back to the neglect of the university system, had government faithfully implemented the 2013 MOU as enumerated earlier, Nigeria wouldn't have been caught off guard by COVID-19. We wouldn't be contemplating reopening of the universities now that COVID-19 data is declining, because we would have had enough classroom, laboratories, workshop, studio, hostel facilities to cater for social and physical distancing. Nigerian universities would have led the way in research to cope the pandemic, including the development of its management system, that is mechanical ventilators, aerosols, dispensers, disinfecting chambers, etc. At the risk of restating the obvious, we cannot make any meaningful progress as a nation until we learn to accord health and education the prime places they deserve in our national priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, from the above, our approach to the reopening of universities amidst COVID-19 had existed since 2013 with the 2013 FGN ASUU MOU. This had already been affirmed by the Minister of Education himself in 2017 when he started advocating for the state of emergency in education. With the way government is handling issues of funding universities, it will take us more than 10 years from now before government would put the necessary facilities to comply with the COVID-19 protocols as stipulated by World Health Organization, WHO, NCDC, PTF, and state COVID-19 control committees. Government in Nigeria seem to believe that the solution to COVID-19 pandemic do not exist in our universities. Conclusion. It is now clear to everybody that neither the struggle of ASUU nor COVID-19 protocols agree with the reopening of universities now. We must avert this impending disaster because it will be very disastrous if we go ahead and reopen universities the way we are now. The private universities that are blaming ASUU have cumulatively less than 5% of the entire student population in Nigerian universities. One of the state universities in this zone, when we were meeting with the Vice Chancellor, had asserted that their last year's admission alone was more than the entire population of all the students in private universities in this country. Above all, ASUU would not want to see any university taking undue advantage of students and their parents by asking them to pay thousands of naira for face masks, hand sanitizers, hand wash, as is done in secondary and primary schools exit classes that have reopened now. Because most of these, particularly private schools, you see parents paying as high as 5,000 naira per face mask of a child. So we don't want to see that ugly scenario in our universities. 5, clarion call. ASUU Bauchi Zone calls on students, parents, civil society organizations, and general public to continue to understand and support it in this struggle by insisting that government lives up to its own national responsibility by honoring agreements, the MOUs and the MOS is signed with ASUU. We all have a moral responsibility to ensure that public education is not joked with in this country, Nigeria. ASUU still maintains that strike has always been the last option after a series of engagements with government without any fruitful results. Aluta continua, Victoria Asada. Thank you.